it's the last week to get yourself a Drake plushie before he's sent back to the hell he crawled out of. Code Drake15 gets you 15% off your order, so why wouldn't you want to invite me into your home unattended around all your valuables? Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to the Den of the Drake. Other dragons hoard gold, while I hoard internet cringe. Positive and negative mindsets. It's important to keep a balance between the two. Controversial statements only on this channel. Yeah, I know that this may be rich coming from the RPG horror story YouTuber, but the surplus of negativity in the RPG space has been getting so damn tiresome. Guys, can we go back to the days where we were giving each other tips on how to make kobolds more fun instead of bringing the drama slop formula to the RPG space by referring to every time a fart passes between Matt Mercer's butt cheeks as a new scandal? How many more times are you gonna upload pictures of yourself making the same stupid face next to the words, "It's over," before it's finally frickin' over? I did not consent to being edged by your thumbnails. Thanks. Now, outside of that hypocrisy, I consider myself a pretty optimistic individual outside of the whole cartoon dragon thing. I like to think of these RPG horror stories as opportunities for growth in both myself and my audience, as we analyze what went wrong as a community. And failing that, it operates as an avenue for me to get a little delulu while giving you something to listen to while you do other productive stuff. You are only doing productive stuff while listening to my videos, right? Yeah, I just saw you put down that cookie. Now go listen to me at the gym while you burn off those calories, nerd. But I can acknowledge that that positive mindset is a luxury that I can only afford by being lucky enough to have a slim number of negative people in my life. And I say lucky because, as today's horror stories will demonstrate, terminally negative people aren't always avoidable. I got two horror stories for you today about two people who thrive on negativity, which proves the rule that a negative plus a negative equals two social parasites. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and dive right into the horrifying world of r/RPG horror stories. Enjoy. Story number 1 comes from a Reddit user who has requested to remain anonymous and is titled, "Player suddenly changed her whole character just to be able to berate me." Mandatory warning. English is not my first language, and some elements were changed to preserve anonymity. It's also my first time posting on Reddit, so my party was composed of 4 people, including myself. Me, a noble wizard that was never allowed to go outside his manor growing up. He knows the value of money, but because of his golden life, everything seems cheap to him, and he's not really street smart. Druid, a simple man not really relevant to the story. Bard, a foreign adventurer with no concept of the value of money, but with a heart of gold. And Fighter, the problem player. Fighter the character and Fighter the player shared multiple personality traits, but the worst ones were: 1. They had anger issues but were not aware of it. 2. They were mad when they got tired. Mad and angry at the world. Usually that wasn't an issue, and our party lived tons of amazing adventures. But sometimes Fighter got tired and cranky. She thought she just needed time to cool down and that she was good at preserving a poker face in these times. But she wasn't. You could almost see the black angry cloud above her throwing lightning on everyone around. She sounded really mean during these moments, and nobody dared to say anything. Now for the campaign backstory. Our party was in Barovia for some time. We had met Strahd and multiple NPCs, one of them providing us with a book of tales from Barovia. Our party rapidly understood that they were no simple tales and kept referring to the book to find clues to fight the big bad evil guy. So when we arrived out of town, my character went shopping and bought other books. In particular, one poetry book about other tales from Barovia. The bookseller saw the noble attire of my wizard and sold the book to him at a huge price. But my character didn't think much of it. What's a few dozen gold for the knowledge that could help them defeat their enemy? The whole table laughed at the situation, and to be fair, the DM was amazing and really convincing as the scammer but adorable bookseller. As players, we all knew I had a great idea, as the book contained multiple clues for the fights to come. Fighter and I talked about the clues we got in the book, and everyone was happy and excited for the next session to come. Unfortunately, the next session was the actual horror story. We all met in the morning. Most of us were pretty tired, but happy and excited to play D&D. We sat around the table with our coffees, laughing, and we began to roleplay. Cue the Fighter immediately saying to my character in an aggressive tone,
"What did you buy? How much money did you spend? I hope you didn't buy anything useless like poetry."
I was baffled, not only because of the player's change of attitude, but because of the Fighter's change of attitude. You see, no one in the party ever was interested in money. We had a shared bag for the party money because the other party members asked to do this, fighter included. I even was the sole player to keep track of the gold of the group because no one else was interested enough to bother doing it. And the fighter was also the first one to read the previous book as if it was a sacred text of truth. But now it was useless to read about Barovian tales? I didn't understand why this change of heart all of a sudden, both in real life and in roleplay. And believe me, our group was all about roleplay. I explained what I bought and the price, and immediately Fighter began to berate me. So my character tried to explain that it's normal for books to be expensive in a secluded land like Barovia, as they are quite rare. The bookseller even complained about it previously. Fighter was so aggressive to me that even the DM had to intervene, confirming that knowledge is priceless. Bard, which had previously bought multiple expensive items just because they were shiny with no problem whatsoever, tried to make a joke and explain that he had no idea of how money worked either. I tried to continue to make light of the situation with him, with my character making an economy lesson for him, explaining how supply and demand change the value of things. His noble parents were also rich jewelry sellers. Fighter had none of it and continued berating me, even mimicking me and doing a lesson also. Then Fighter asked how much gold we had left and more details. So I took out my notebook and told her how much we had, and also all of the purchases we did from our arrival in Barovia. I just couldn't list some of it because I was too tired this day and forgot my notes from a previous session. So the fighter said,
It would be great to keep track of some of the money we spend. Something like a table with 3 columns, money spent, total, and who bought what.
At this point, I was becoming more and more frustrated. I turned my notebook to the fighter for her to see and said, like this? Like the exact thing I've been doing since the beginning of the campaign? Lo and behold, this exact table was in my notebook. That shut Fighter up for a moment, but I still don't understand how she came up with this brilliant new idea. I mean, I have been taking notes for months and repeatedly talked about it. It was no secret. The session continued, but not without Fighter interrupting me multiple times when I was speaking to the DM. You see, Fighter had another annoying habit to help by proposing ideas, even and in particular when you already knew what you were doing. She would get annoyed when people didn't follow her ideas and accept her help, and God, she was super annoyed that day. So after 1 hour, the black cloud above her was covering the whole table, taking all the space in the room. The air was electric. I tried to keep the peace and decided to ignore her when she interrupted me, but she was still rolling her eyes as if what I was saying was stupid. The mood was so damaged that, for the first time, we cut the session short, and everyone just awkwardly went home. I thought at first that we were both to blame, but Bard and Druid said that she was the aggressive one, and that they didn't understand why she turned on me like that. They also agreed that her anger issues had ruined multiple sessions so far, but that last one was the worst. Even they felt attacked by her when she was berating me. Obviously, you should always try and talk to your friends and players when something like this happens, and we did. Well, we tried. We loved her and still wanted to play with her, just without the angry black cloud she brings when she's mad. But she decided to run away without listening to us and quit the group. It has been 2 months and I still have no idea why her and her character did a 180 just to be angry at me and my book-loving wizard. End of story. So, I gotta confess, I 100% chose this story because I read the English is not my first language line and knew it would be a dream to read through compared to the deranged keyboard mashing we see from our native English-speaking friends. Ugh, it's always rubbed me the wrong way when people use things like, I'm tired, or I'm hungry, as an excuse to be awful to other people. Congrats! You're incapable of handling the universal desire to fulfill your basic biological needs. Have a cookie. No, it's not a reward, it's me giving you something so you shut up about how quirky you get when you're hangry. It sounds like to me the fighter here has got some of their own things going on out of the game, and the only way that they can feel any sort of control is to pick on you and your character. But as many people discover way too late, there is no happiness to be had wasting time on bullies who call themselves your friend. Your personal struggles are just that. Your personal struggles. It's not cool to take out your own frustrations on people who are completely unrelated to said frustrations. I mean, sure, misery loves company, but you're gonna run out of company if all you do is make them feel miserable. That's actually part of my pet theory on why Reddit is such a whiny wasteland. People who thrive exclusively on negativity tend to have pretty anemic social lives. So the only way to get any of your social needs met is to go online. And then you go hook up with all the other people who get bricked up by refusing to talk about anything else other than how horrible the world is. Rinse and repeat until the company becomes publicly traded and being called a Redditor becomes such a horrible insult it may as well be a slur. Life is way too short to force yourself to play D&D with people who mistake reality for Reddit. D&D is a game explicitly designed to be an escapist fantasy, meant to be shared with other people. There is no win condition. The goal is literally just the vibe. So, keeping someone around who consistently ruins the experience for everyone by having this dark cloud around them is functionally the same as having a hockey goalie who's really into the sound of pucks hitting the net. It defeats the entire purpose of that person being there to begin with. Best case scenario is that they all work things out after the fighter realizes that they're being insufferable and apologizes. But the second best case scenario is exactly what happened here, and the trash takes itself out. So, fingers crossed that our next story has a similarly happy ending. Our second story comes from Reddit user 9-inch Nipple. Nice. And is titled Player Negativity Tilts the Party. First post here, and I'm not sure how to format this story, so I'll just do my best. My group consists of 8 people. 2 of them and myself are DMs, and we rotate, each doing 4-month periods to play new or existing campaigns, and the campaign that I DM has gone on the longest, and so the PCs are all very high level, ranging from 13th to 15th level, and so designing encounters for a 7-man party has gotten quite difficult, in the sense that there's not a lot that they struggle with. So I decided to make an encounter that would make the players sit on the edge of their seats. The party consists of a barbarian, 2 bards, a druid, a crossbow fighter, a ranger, and a rogue. So they're pretty diverse in terms of spellcasting, half-casters and martial classes, which is great because they don't just try to outdamage every enemy they come across. The spellcasters will use some form of utility or crowd control to steer the fight in their favor. So I decided to make a really spicy encounter. A Death Knight is my starting point, and for minions I wanted something that would be good bulk but also dangerous. So 10 ghosts it is. Yes, this is a metric fuck ton of XP, but I knew my party could handle it easy peasy. Or at least I did before the first turn had been resolved. The rogue and the ranger flank left and right of the Courtyard of Vengeance's tower, the name of the Death Knight's former keep, as the ghosts were hiding inside battlements, so the party thought it was just them versus him. They both sink a decent amount of damage into the Death Knight, but the rest of the party is stacked close together at the portcullis. What the f***? Is that even a word? Hold on. The rest of the party is stacked close together at the portcullis entrance. Boom! Hellfire Orb devastates the ranks, and players begin to take the encounter more serious after 80% of them take 20d6 damage. They then spread out into the courtyard to avoid more collateral damage. The Death Knight only has 1 use of the huge AoE ability, but they didn't know that. And near the end of the initiative step, 10 ghosts surround the party and all attempt to use their possession ability. This is where shit hits the fan. Both bards pass with flying colors, as the save is Charisma DC 13 or something low like that. The barbarian and fighter also get lucky, and obviously the rogue is hidden away with a 26 on stealth. But the ranger and the druid were not so lucky. Both failed and were now under my control. Then the negativity hits, as the druid player, who rolled low on his initiative and hasn't had his turn yet, starts freaking the fuck out, spewing classic lines like,
That's it, it's a TPK now. I'm the only proper healer, so we're doomed. You guys should just run away.
Now, I'll admit, I buggered up a key detail to the possession, and it did screw over the party. But I compensated them with additional XP, loot, and a 1-use only saving throw pad. If they are presented with a saving throw, they may just instead choose to pass it. So the part I shagged was that while under possession, no class features can be used. My dumbass thinking that class features was things like Rage, Beast-Shaped, or Divine Smite. But spellcasting is a class feature too, so whoops, my bad. I had the druid start dropping high DPS spells on the barbarian. She's bear totem, so it was only half, so barely an inconvenience. Turns pass and the lore bard wants to see if he knows how to end possession, and he rolls high on nature. I didn't know what other skill check that would be. So I tell him it's either a Dispel Good and Evil cast on the target or knocking the target to 0 HP, at which point the druid gave another wave of the,
Oh, great. Guess I'll just make a new character then.
and
Oh, I just wasted so much money on this Hero Forge mini.
which made me feel like a bit of an asshole. But the stupid thing is, this is a high-level party. Death is a temporary inconvenience at this point. One of the bards has resurrection for Christ's sake, and the party has so much gold they could hire a wizard or a cleric to perform Raise Dead, or literally any other spell to bring the druid back. If he was dead, which he still isn't. The fight goes on. Smart uses of debuff spells keep the Death Knight from being too much of a pain, and before you know it, he's on 11 HP, and the druid has been knocked unconscious by the barbarian, as no one had to spell good and evil prepared. The whole while, the druid has not stopped complaining about the ghost's bullshit ability, or how the party is doomed. Where at the beginning of the fight, everyone was excited and ready for a hardcore enemy. Faces had now dropped, everyone was on a downer at the sound of the druid's attitude. To the point that plenty of players had just told him to shut up, and he would pipe down momentarily before the whining continued. Just before the Death Knight died, he used Destructive Wave to deal as much damage to as much people as possible, which took the druid's final death save, and the druid died. The player then said something like,
I told you.
or some shit. Then was silent for the next 40 minutes or so, making a new character on D&D Beyond in a huff. During those 40 minutes, the party was gathering resources to perform the resurrection spell because they, as did I, felt bad for a character death. Especially one that's been with the party for 3 years IRL. Then when they inform him that they're going to cast the spell because he's for sure not paying attention, he says,
The spell won't work. It has to be on a willing creature, and my character ain't willing.
He was being an absolute child about it, and after 15 minutes of everyone at the table telling him not to be a baby, he finally gets resurrected, at which point he asks if he still gets XP, and wants loot too. I just wanted the session to end on a good note, so I gave him the XP, plus bonus XP to the party for the rule I messed up, and a generous amount of loot. Then the session ended. I went to talk to the druid player after, because he's never been a problem player before. He was always engaged and a dedicated role player. Also, he's one of my best friends, if not my best friend. So I told him how his mood really brought the session down and how his negativity affected the experience. And he threw stuff in my face like,
I didn't have fun this session.
and
Taking away players' free will is unfair.
coming from a guy that's more than happy to cast mass suggestion on the party when they don't agree with him. I understood that his enjoyment was ruined that session, but I don't think that's any reason to bring everyone else down. I know this isn't as bad of a horror story as a lot of other stuff on this sub, like a furry-obsessed DM or a player taking a shit on the table, but this is the most uncomfortable and awkward session I've ever had. It felt like a nightmare having combat interrupted for him to throw a tantrum, and have the rest of the players give me weird looks or just glue their eyes to the floor. Anyway, I've learned from my mistakes and the events of that night, and I like to believe I'm a better DM now than I was. Cheers for reading, guys. Feel free to tear me a new one for misunderstanding what a class feature is. End of story. Alright, so this one's kind of the opposite of the last one where old Nagatha let her out-of-game issues manifest as in-game complaining. In this story, we got Whiny Willy over here letting his in-game issues manifest into out-of-game vibe homicide. So here's the thing, just like in life, you never know what days are gonna be good and what days are gonna be bad. And not every D&D session is gonna be a winner, and that's okay. Not every session is going to fit your particular tastes as a player, and if your head's twisted on the right way, then that's only going to serve to make you appreciate the sessions that do. Now, if the game is consistently unfun for you, then that's a different story. However, just because things aren't fun for you specifically in the current moment does not give you the right to try and muscle your own internal diva moment into the forefront of everyone else's good time. Okay, so Devil's Advocate, mind control / possession in D&D doesn't really feel that good since, by its very nature, it's a mechanic for taking away player agency. That's kind of the point. It's not like it doesn't have a place in D&D, but you definitely want combats based around mind control mechanics to be spaced pretty far apart from each other. But let's not allow all this advocating for the devil distract us from the fact that it's the devil. Ranger got possessed too, and we didn't see them throwing a tantrum over it. Plus, it's not like the DM didn't go out of their way to butter you up after they recognized they made an incorrect ruling. How things play out are not always in your control. But what is always in your control is how you react to things not going your way. And if you constantly make the choice to obsess over the negative and insist that everyone around you does the same, then you are positively gonna wind up bitter and alone, and rightfully so. But you know who's never bitter and surrounds themselves with exclusively attractive people, the artists who send me fan art. That's right, how about we take a look at this week's Gallery of the Drake. This week's fan art comes from viewer Scaros the Bard, who depicts the Drake's attempt at espionage. You see, when hunting for new cringe to hoard, it helps to know where to look, and oftentimes that means going behind enemy lines.
Alright, Redditors, listen up. I took a break from my job making your lives better by changing every subreddit into my own personal echo chamber. Yes, being a Reddit mod is a real job. Shut up or you're banned. It's come to my attention that one of you may not be a real anime girl.
Aw, well, Miku, you had a good run. Thank you again, Scaros the Bard, for submitting your art. If you'd like to see your fan art featured in Gallery of the Drake, be sure to send it to the email in my About section, or upload it to the official Den of the Drake subreddit, linked in the description. Fan art is my favorite part of doing YouTube, and it means the world to me that I can inspire artists like you to create artwork like this. With the stories over and artwork displayed, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and send in your fan art. And if you feel like supporting the channel further, my Patreon and merchandise links are in the description. Also, friendly reminder, this is the last week to buy the plushie, so if you want to take home the bastard, now's the time to do it. Nah, but for real, I want to extend a thank you to everyone who purchased a Drake plushie. I thought I was gonna have to bust my ass all month to sell that thing, but we hit our sales goal in like the first week. Holy shit, you guys. Every day, you guys find new ways to remind me how lucky I am to have fans like you. I would like to thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you next time in the Den of the Drake.